and welcome everybody to another edition of Good Writing. I'm your host, Dakota Shane, and today I'm super pumped. We're going to be talking about really, in the grand scheme, one of my favorite songs, if I had to put a label on it. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the best rap verses of all time that gets some love, in the depths of Reddit and in hip hop head circles and everything. Not calling myself a very big hip hop head, but I certainly love the art form, appreciate the art form, love the writing in the art form. And I don't see this song being thrown around with the caliber and level that I think it should be discussed. And this is 16 by the one and only Andre 3000. Technically, it's Rick Ross's song, who actually does an amazing job. He's not known for, his lyrics. He's more businessman, icon, marketing genius, has really dug deep into the entrepreneurial ventures that he has in franchising since his days, really being at the top of hip hop or towards the top, but he actually does great, which shows you how much people in the hip hop community respect Andre 3000. So for those who don't know, Andre 3000 is one of two members from the iconic hip hop duo that originated in, I believe, 1992, the early 90s, and early mid 2000s really just was at the top of the world. And I grew up just absolutely loving Outkast. Even though it was a little before my time, I loved ATLiens, Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music, onto their more well-known works, Roses, all of that good stuff. And from a writing perspective, I absolutely love Andre 3000. He's definitely one of, if not my absolute favorite hip hop artist in that regard. And something that sticks and resonates with me when it comes to hip hop artists is I really am a sucker for cadence and unique flow and storytelling ability and writing style and voice. And I sometimes think if I took this person's verses and put it into an AI or robot and it spat it out to me, disguised the voice, would I be able to recognize that person? And I think a few people definitely come up when you think of that thought exercise. Jay-Z, of course, famous for his flow and just the way that he thinks and approaches words and topics. Eminem, another one, of course, and Andre 3000 really, I think, is up there. Most folks who are big fans would be able to tell what an Andre 3000 verse is, even if another person rapped it. So anyway, I've been a huge nerd of this song, and it's called 16. And what the concept of the song is, for those who aren't familiar, in hip hop and also other genres, jazz, most notably, you get 16 bars or measures. And this is just a unit of measurement with music to have your verse, to have your part of the song. So whenever you see someone on a rap track or a pop track with a rapper come in and who's featured on that song, they typically will give them 16 verses until the chorus comes around, until the bridge comes around. So what this song is, the concept of it is during these moments, both Rick Ross and Andre 3000 feel like that's such a box that you're caging me in. I don't have enough time to tell my story in 16 bars. It's just not enough, which is the whole point of this track is we're going to give you way more than 16 bars. So it's a very long song, but an amazing song and just good writing. Anyway, I'm going to link the song down below. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you're in for a treat. If you have, I do encourage you to re-listen, take a few minutes. I've time stamped it to Andre's verse, but you can listen to Rick Ross's as well. I think it'll set the stage for the discussion. So feel free to listen to it. I'm going to listen to it again, and I will see you in a minute. All right. I always get chills listening to that song. No matter how many times I listen to it, it's always the same story. Typically, I'll go through big takeaways piece by piece, but I think with this episode, it actually makes more sense to kind of go through it line by line or passage by passage, stanza by stanza. Is that what it's called in rap? I don't know. It's poetry, right? So stanzas. But one big takeaway for me with Andre's verse is I really picture this image always comes to mind when I hear this song, and think of it as a kaleidoscope, and a few things pop up. It's throughout the verse, it really is a melting pot, a stream of consciousness almost of youthful braggadocio, coming of age, kind of soapbox chatter, really like kind of the old man on the rocking chair telling you, his life lessons and what to look out for and everything. And I picture us looking through a kaleidoscope and Andre just twisting it for us, holding it in front of our eyes, twisting it, because on paper and when you listen, the concepts kind of seem stream of consciousness and not that thematically connected, but they connect so well. It's images dissolving and coming back, images dissolving, coming back. And I think that it's a really impactful tool that he uses. And I just whenever I listen to it, I keep getting the image of the kaleidoscope. So we're going to talk about the kaleidoscope here. In the very beginning, he starts out, he's kind of laughing, just the intro as it builds and it builds and it builds anticipation coming, where he's like, 16, I have so much to say. 16 bars ain't enough. How am I supposed to squeeze my whole life? Then it kind of ends on a little parallipsis of like, you're going to feel me on this one, but I'm kind of defeating the purpose with doing all this talking. It's like, we're not going to talk about all that, but I just talked about it. So here we go. And I think that the first pieces of the song could be categorized as a loss of innocence story. Even from the first line, he goes, summer 88, or was it 89? Or was it wintertime? Never mind. That grounds the verse in such reality to me. I think it's such a smart way to depict humanity with it. I think a lot of times with storytelling, we're so overly crystallized with things, when in reality, if you're talking to your family, with your boys, with your friends, with your partner, telling stories, it's more like that. It's more, was it 89? I don't know. But the fact that he doesn't remember that, but remembers all of these details that he's about to share, shows how impactful what he's going to cover meant to him and means to him still. So this part is the loss of innocence story. I'm in my room booming, drawing LL Cool J album covers with Crayolas on construction paper. We're immediately zapped in. Very simple, and I don't mean in any sort of way, but simple as in straightforward description, where it's immediate. We have an image of little Andre on construction papers with LL Cool J, who is another hip hop icon, plastered on the wall, his idols, and he's just sitting there with Crayolas on construction paper. And then this part too, it just, boom, we're zapped right back into childhood. I'm trying to fuck my neighbor. I'm trying to hook my waves up. I'm trying to pull my grades up to get them saddle lace ups. So he's trying to, youthful love, trying to get those new pair of sneakers, like that repetition there of the trying is just captures that youthful innocence of all of this. And then boom, it snaps. This next piece is so, I love it because it snaps it and shatters it, because he talks about, I'm trying, talks about Crayolas on construction paper. And now we get into the bad stuff, the loss of innocence that happened in his childhood. So here we have, or I'll say it here, before little Mark was Jacob. So that is referring to, I believe, Marc Jacobs, the designer and fashion icon. So a little play on words of, when he was just little Mark and not Marc Jacobs with the materialism. Before little Mark was Jacob, before them girls wore makeup, back to Marc Jacobs, before my voice would break up, before we tore them shake clubs, before my mama wake up, before my crumbs would cake up, before they tell me they love me and will never break up. So it's right there. And this is actually a literary device used for repetition called in an aphora. And what that means is just repetition at the start of clauses. So the before here is that repetition. I think what makes before such a potent way to describe these is it's almost as if Andre is taking a passive role on this, which kind of goes more into the innocence that's lost here. I think it would be different if he just went and said, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. But that before, there's something about the before that makes him take that passive approach and really sticks in your craw a little bit of like, man, these bad things happen and they've happened to really all of us, right? And so he goes, before my mom will wake up, before my crumbs would cake up, before they tell me they love me and will never break up. So that's before that happens, before the time she makes love to someone that I thought was my homeboy, but boy, was I wrong now. And so, boom, right there, we have the innocence story, the youthful innocence. We have the coming of age loss of innocence in a few bars already. So I think Andre could do everything he needs to in 16, but it's cool that we get him in more than 16. This part next is, and again, the more you listen to this verse, the more you realize how brilliant of a storyteller Andre 3000 is, because it just goes straight to it. So we have the youthful innocence, the loss of innocence, and I think this next portion is really his revenge phase. That youthful revenge phase that we have. Some of us started listening to emo music, some of us painted our nails, some of us did the opposite to just break the mold a little bit and try and find that individuality with it. And I think this next part is Andre depicting that in a really creative way. So before the time she makes love to someone that I thought was my homeboy, but boy, was I wrong now. I don't budge, don't want much, just a roof and a porch and a Porsche and a horse, and unfortunately, but of course, an assortment of torches that scorches the skin. So we'll get to that part in a second, but do you see that build there? The irony of him saying, I don't want much, and then it builds. I think that is depicting him accumulating those things throughout his life. And funny enough, that's actually another literary device, a type of repetitive literary device called accumulation, that build. And so he says he doesn't want much, but then he talks about just a roof and a porch and a Porsche, a nice car, and a horse. So now he wants all of it, the whole ranch, from that scar that was left through him. And then here he really switches. So what's interesting here is this switches from, and this is where I think it deviates a bit from pure storytelling to more stream of consciousness, more of that kaleidoscope impact here. So he goes from that, and then he actually talks about an experience he had with intruders. So he goes from that, the accumulation, the build, and he's like, but of course, an assortment of torches that scorches the skin. So torches around his big property, I'm assuming, when they enter, intruders whose tutors did a lousy job. So intruders are coming in. He's saying that their tutors wronged them. He has empathy towards these individuals, and whose tutors did a lousy job. How's he God if he lets Lucifer let loose on us? So there's that, the loose and Lucifer, the noose, the all of that coming in together makes for a really chilling image. And so what he means here is that noose on us won't loosen up, but loose enough to juice us up. So now he's talked about how these individuals who more than likely, based off of the verse, were also African American, who he is African American for folks who don't know Andre 3000. So there's that brotherhood. He goes from that to talking about the Black American experience at large. So he talks about something that really a lot of folks have talked about brilliantly, the concept of, well, I'll just say the noose on us won't loosen up, but loose enough to juice us up, make us think we do so much and do it big. Like they don't let us win. I can't pretend. He's saying, though we're no longer in captivity, we still are. The noose is just loose enough to still juice us up and make us think like, hey, look, you can do whatever. But he's saying that it actually still exists. And there have been a few folks, I know Kanye, who, has had numerous problems recently, has talked about this, how that concept of modern day slavery and the Jim Crow going all the way back to Jim Crow South to sharecropping, just a consistent theme of giving a little more crumbs to it and loosening the noose just a little bit, but still feeling it in a state of servitude. So that's what he's talking about here. And then he goes even deeper into it, makes us think we do so much and do it big, like they don't let us win. But I can't pretend. I do admit it feel good when the hood pseudo celebrate. Hence why every time we dine, we eat until our belly ache. Then go grab the finest wine and drink it, like we know which grape and region it came from, as if we can name them. Hint, hint, it ain't Welch's. So he is talking about that lack of parity. But he says that these moments, look, it feels good. We don't win all the time, is what he's saying. So when we do get to win, I do want to buy that wine. I do want to experience these things. But who am I? There's that imposter syndrome coming out. He's like, who am I? I don't know which region it came from. We don't know which region it came from. So I think it's a lighthearted on paper, but very deep concept that he's getting at here. And then after that piece, he's back into the braggadocio. So he goes from that, and it's almost like when people say, okay, I'm stepping on my soapbox here. And then he's back into the braggadocious element. So he's like, hell just fell 3,000 more degrees cooler. Y'all can't measure my worth. So when he comes in, he's so cold that hell goes 3,000 degrees cooler, Andre 3000. And y'all can't measure my worth, but when you try, you'll need a ruler made by all the Greek gods, because the odds have always been stacked against me when back's against the wall. So he's talking about how, look, I've made it. I've made it here. There's nothing you can take away from me. I have earned this. Again, it's flipping. It's going almost like a pendulum, that kaleidoscope of braggadocious, deep. So now, after that element, he goes right back in to some really important topics. So here he's saying, I feel right at home. Y'all sitting right at home, all Kelly green with envy. So green with envy, Kelly green, color of the 4-leaf clover, while I'm jelly beans descending into the palm of a child. So he's jelly beans. And do you see the kaleidoscope imagery of how it's just floating? It's like going back and forth into the palm of a child, that personification. He's the jelly bean, and there's the child expectant with the palm out. So looks up at mama and smiles with such a devilish grin, like, where the hell have you been? So now maybe he's gotten older, maybe it's fast forwarded, this child who used to hold his hand out for jelly beans, now his mom who did that is now saying, where have you been? It's late. She's yelling, selling's a sin. Well, so is telling young men that selling is a sin if you don't offer new ways to win. Oh, oh, man. He goes right for the jugular on that. He's like, yeah, it is. But guess what? Going back to the loosening of the noose, it's like, what do you expect? It's not an excuse, but I think the best artists have this sense of empathy towards folks. And he's saying that you're not offering him new ways to win. So he wants to go and get his money, get these things that he desires. He talks about next, and I just think this is such a great image and writing here. He's saying, if you don't offer new ways to win, a dolphin gonna shake his fin regardless if he gets in or out of water. Most important thing for him is to swim. So he's just saying, hey, he's in this environment. He's in this. He's gonna, whether he gets in the water or not, the dolphin's gonna shake his fin. He's gonna get exposed to this. So he's almost saying better to expose him and let him make those choices than not. And then he says, and Flipper didn't hold his nose, so why should I hold my tongue? He's like, look, I know I just said some borderline offensive stuff, if he's talking to like a granny figure or a mother figure, but why should I hold my tongue? Flipper didn't hold his nose. He just talked about dolphins. And then it's back to the modern day. Now he's back. He's Andre 3000 again in this next section. So I miss the days of old when one could hold his gal in his arm, and I set off these alarms when cameras snap, 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 return fire, pat, 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 pat. I love that so much. So he's talking about how I miss the days when I could just have a gal on my arm and not set off these alarms, the cameras. And then he talks about how the snap, snap, snap of the camera, there's that repetition again. He's like, I return fire. So he's talking about the gunfire, the pat, 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 pat. I'm sure he doesn't actually mean it, but it's a great device here. He's like, they'll learn why mere privacy is so essential. They won't make no laws. I break their laws till they see out our window. So put yourself in my shoes. I take the fall to make them all treat humankind more gentle. So here he's talking about, it almost molds into this verse as a whole. He's talking about these really deeply rooted issues and everything. And he's almost making himself a martyr figure, a scapegoat figure. And he's going back and forth again, that pendulum, the teetering. He's saying, I take the fall to make them all treat humankind more gentle, forsake them all. I hate them all. Don't like them. Don't pretend to. So he's like, no, screw that. I don't like them anyway. And then it really dies down. And this is where the verse dissolves out. And he talks about, yeah, something tells me we ain't in Kansas anymore. All that shit that used to be cool ain't cool anymore. All the women we were pursuing, now they want more. The marriage and everything, and they deserve it all. Don't settle for what ain't yours. So he's saying that there's that coming to grips with age and with maturity here that I think is such a subtle but powerful way to describe that maturity and show that maturity. So he's saying, we're not in Kansas anymore. All that shit we used to do and wear and say, it ain't cool anymore. The young kids aren't doing it. It's a tale as old as time there. All the women we were pursuing, now we're older. They want more. They want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to settle down. And adding this little tag just shows, it makes such a big difference. And I think that's such a important piece and significant piece when it comes to writing is what tags can you add to take it to the next level here? So that last line after he says, now they want more, these women, and they deserve it all. Don't settle for what ain't yours. So he, in a moment of self-awareness, while he used to be the one pursuing in the shake clubs and all that, now he has the self-awareness to say, they deserve it. Of course, you should give it to them. They should not settle for something that isn't theirs. And it's such an amazing track, one that you can listen to all the time. The storytelling elements of it are so great, but let me know if you agree, if you're if you're a music fan in general. I feel like sometimes the best storytelling rappers don't necessarily have that it factor when it comes to style and art, that artistic element. Do you know what I mean? It's something you can't really put your finger on, but a lot of it, amazing storytellers. Immortal Technique comes to mind with that. Of the storytelling is so amazing, but there's something, I'm not pointing fingers just at Immortal Technique, but I'm saying with a lot of that archetype, they're missing that it element when it comes to the art side of it. On the other side of the coin, I think even more, even more so, there's the ones who have that it factor, that the charisma, but can't tell a story to save their lives with it. I think, honestly, one of the best rap verses of all time is the fact that it's both. The fact that there's that swag, there's that shuck, that jive, that rhythm, that pendulum, that teeter, that totter, the 1-2 step that you can just feel, that you eke swag. And yet the storytelling and the things he's saying is so powerful, and it's not lost in it. And it's that perfect balance of not being overly prescriptive, not being sing-songy or preachy, but also not being super passive. I think being passive and being preachy in this way is something that it's a hard line to walk, but Andre 3000 does it masterfully. Great. At the end of every episode, we put together a exercise, totally optional exercise, if you want to apply some of the principles that we covered today to your own writing, to your own art, no matter what kind of art that you do. But the exercise that I want you to do is set a timer for 10 minutes and create your own kaleidoscope. And what I mean here is let yourself and your mind run free for a 10-minute timer. And if you're writing in pencil, do not lift that pencil off the paper. If you're typing, do not lift your fingers off the keyboard, unless you have an itchy ear or face or booger or something like that. Cool, that's fine. But besides that, don't stop for 10 minutes. And with this mind state, with this stream of consciousness, I want you to have your own kaleidoscope. It could be a poem, it could be a song, it could just be a stream of consciousness journal entry. But I want you to give a similar take on your life experiences, on passing down some knowledge that you have found helpful. And I hope that it inspires some cool art. I tried this. I try every good writing exercise before the videos myself, and it's fun. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for making me a part of your day. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I hope your plate is full. I hope your heart is light. And I hope before we meet again, you get lost in some good writing. I'll see you next time. Also, too, if you like this video, if you like this discussion, if you want to see more of this, please, if you think I deserve it, hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, drop your comments and thoughts, disagree, agree. It really helps the channel grow, helps me find similar writers. And I really want to make this a dialogue. I want to make this channel a dialogue. And I know it's small right now, but I want it to keep growing, and I want it to attract writers together. And that's the scope and vision I have for this channel, for good writing. And I appreciate you all, whoever you are, wherever you are. Also, be sure to, if you want to stay connected, I have a link to my email newsletter as well as my website down below. Thanks again. We'll talk soon.